ahead and get started. First of all, I want to thank you all for being here. Of course, tragic events that hit the state of Iowa last night across the entire state. We are on site this morning. Just really, once again, just to see the resiliency of Iowans. They are moving forward. The cleanup that has already taken place from last night is incredible. I'm going to have Representative Sorensen talk a little bit about what he was on site last night and just what it looks like this morning. But I want to give a shout out to the community and everybody that has responded. The emergency manager Cooper, thank you for coordinating. We've got incident site set up here at the DOT headquarters. We had law enforcement from Commissioner Bain's State Patrol to local law enforcement that have been in site, really securing the area, making sure that we keep everybody safe and all that was impacted. We had life flights in. We have been able to remove people that were impacted last night and get them to the health care that they needed to receive to other hospitals, other areas of the state. So they stepped in and did a really good job in really making that happen as well. You know, it's just been a month out since Minden and Shelby County and the tornadoes that hit our state at that point. They continue to walk through the recovery. Again, just incredible, the response, the volunteers, the community, the outpouring of help. In fact, we're probably going to hold on a lot of the volunteers for today because we want to continue to go through the debris and the cleanup and make sure that we're doing the jobs that we need to do right now. But incredible response from other EMS providers, directors, communities across the state have been on site and ready to help, and we just so grateful for all of their response to this incident. So, you know, we talked to a couple of people that have been impacted, again, in good spirits, grateful, digging through and looking forward. So I thought at this point, I thought I'd give Representative Sorensen a chance to talk a little bit about what you saw last night. This is your community, so you kind of give a unique perspective.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I was painting in a church in Fontenelle and kind of keeping an eye on the weather and keeping on the phone with my wife, and she told me it was getting pretty bad over here and started getting calls from some friends and family, and so I kind of chased the tornado into town and out of town and just pulled into the bank parking lot. And you know, there's incredible common sense in this community. There's incredible resolve. People were already getting to work clearing debris out of the roads. I mean, everybody that brought a skid loader in, thank you a million. I mean, that was a way to clear the streets and make it accessible for emergency personnel. Everybody became little makeshift ambulances. We pulled a guy from the rubble and put him on a little makeshift stretcher that we made, threw him in the back of a truck of a guy that isn't even from Iowa. And we just made our way to the lumber yard, which was the makeshift hospital. And so, you know, as I toured around with the governor, I told her, I kind of wish you were here last night because, I mean, we've already done so well. I mean, this community's already done so well at just cleaning up the streets and getting to work on rebuilding. You know, we may be turning volunteers away for now, but I know news and things like this are easy to forget. Please don't forget about us. Please continue to send volunteers and be at the ready, because we will need just hands on deck and chainsaws and whatever we need to, you know, heavy duty trucks to get this stuff out of here and get started on the rebuild. So that's
and that is just for today on the volunteers. So thank you for making sure that we clarified that. It's just we just need to stabilize some of the debris and what's taken place. So I want to give you an update on what we were able to do last night. So as the governor, I issued the disaster proclamation, and that makes available not only individual assistance for those that have been impacted, but also state resources. So that will allow DOT to get on the ground and help remove some of the debris and just help with those, eliminate any barriers that they might have in connecting with our state resources. DNR is on site and they're helping direct where we take the debris to, so that we're doing that appropriately. Director Benson is already working with FEMA. I spoke to Administrator Criswell this morning, had a call and a voice message from her the minute I got up. Was able to contact her. We indicated that we will be putting forth an expedited presidential declaration. We're hoping by no later than tomorrow we'll have those numbers in so that we can get them to the White House and get a presidential disaster declaration as quickly as possible. We're going to file for individual assistance again and public assistance. As you know, the hospital was damaged, and so we want to make sure that we're providing resources for them as well. That also opens up SBA and other opportunities. There's been ag damage again, just like we saw in Shelby and in Midden, and so in Pot County. And so we'll again probably, hopefully we'll qualify for USDA assistance as well. But all of that is in the works. You know, unfortunately, we have a lot of FEMA personnel on the ground right now. So John, I think you'll be able to coordinate with your team and really simplify that process. Instead of making a two-step process, we'll hopefully be able to do it together, and we can get them the numbers as soon as possible. So I really do appreciate Administrator Criswell's outreach and willingness to be on the ground and to do everything we can to get this on the desk of the White House and get that approved so we can get the additional resources that those have been impacted are going to need. John, is there anything else I need to address?
No, I think you covered it. You give me a good timeline. I'll meet it.
Okay, we're going to be aggressive. You know, we can turn these around fairly quickly, and so I'm sure, especially after looking at the amount of devastation, the community is flattened and the debris. You know, if we qualified in Pot County and in probably in Shelby, we're gonna qualify again. So we just need to turn that around as quickly as we can so that people know here are the resources that are available. Anybody else have anything to add?
Governor, can you update us on the number of fatalities and injuries?
No, not at this time, because it's still a search and rescue, and we don't want to give out any misinformation. And so that's one of the reasons that we're keeping the site secure. So when we have those numbers, we'll be sure and get them to the media. But at this point, we're not prepared to address that because it's still a search and rescue.
Are people still missing?
It's still a search and rescue, and so we're going to continue to do everything we can to monitor the area. Do you have any?
With it still being a whole coordinated search, that's the whole methodology that we're looking at with being so controlled with who is allowed in at this time. It is still a search mission as far as we're looking to make sure all residents are accounted for. When we have this many homes that have been destroyed and just fully demolished, we want to make sure that every resident, every person is accounted for. So we're going to continue doing that, and then once we have those numbers, we will send that information out.
And there's how many people have been displaced from their homes?
No, that's all still part of what we're still fully gathering.
We were told that the square was largely spared, but were any historic landmarks, important buildings hit?
I would say a lot of the important landmarks for me, just the skyline of the trees. You know, there's so many old historic trees in town that are gone, and not to downplay people's houses completely destroyed, but that to me is part of the history of Greenfield, are some of those old trees, and it's a completely different town now.
I mean, there are just slabs in a lot of the homes.
I was glad that it spared the grandstand at the fairgrounds, because that's another historic grandstand, and so that we've been looking
Governor,
I also want to the hospital did a great job too of just dealing with those that have been impacted and really working with Life Flight. We had 4 Life Flights land last night, so incredible response from that perspective too, to get those that were injured to safety and to critical resources. So really appreciated what they were able to do. I think several of the surrounding hospitals were able to take some of the patients, as well as of course Des Moines was able to take some of the patients as well.
just your gut reaction to seeing the damage?
It's just gut wrenching. I mean, I was just in Minden, as I said, 3.5 weeks ago, and that was horrific. And I think there's even more debris and just more more impacted here. So it is just horrific. It's hard to describe until you can actually see it, the devastation. And it's just, but at the same time, I can't begin to tell you just how heartwarming it is to see just everybody out there helping each other. A friend was going through a neighbor's place looking for photos and just personal items that she could get back to the owner. So you just see that over and over, and just the amount of people willing to step up and step in. I think Representative Sorensen talked about somebody that wasn't even from Iowa that had a truck that made a makeshift to get somebody that was impacted to the resources that they need, to the healthcare that they needed. So you just see that over and over, and it's just it's heartwarming. It's not surprising. It's incredible. It's one big. I've always said Iowa is one big community, and we certainly see that in times of tragedy, and we're witnessing it again. But it's horrific.
You spoke about Minden, and your state is used to tornadoes. But Governor, what would you say to people who feel like they're seeing an increase in the frequency and the severity of these storms, and they're scared?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, it's cyclical. So at times we kind of were under what the average was, and sometimes then people step back and maybe don't take things as seriously. Now we're above what the average is. And so my advice would just be, when you hear these warnings, it is incredible. I want to give a shout out to the Weather Service too. They were able to track this storm, and they were almost half an hour, if not even closer than that. Incredible, really giving advance notice, letting individuals know when it would hit and where it would hit, and they were almost spot on. And I tell you, the other reason that was so important, that we were able to just really pinpoint it that closely, we had a lot of kids still in school, and so based on the early advance notice that we were able to get, many of our schools got those kids out of school early, and it hit here at 3. So that would have been the time that the kids would have been on a bus and heading home, and it could have been devastating. So again, that is just getting better and better about really understanding the movement, when and how we can prepare. But I think right now we're taking it pretty seriously. When they say you need to take cover, it means take cover. So, it's important that we listen to the warnings that are available to us right now.
I just have one question about the impact of the hospital. So one thing we had heard, and I don't know if this was confirmed, but that patients possibly had to be moved out of the hospital because it had been damaged into another location. Did that end up being true?
That was true. Yeah. No, that was true. They did a great job in doing that. Actually, the ambulance was out of the facility that they were housed in, or else that could have been an issue. But they set it up, I think, at the lumberyard is where they set up a makeshift kind of hospital, ER, triage. Thank you. So they were able to get people there and start to provide them the resources that they need to address the issues.
What kind of patient were they?
No, I don't know the details, and again, I'm not going to speculate. That's where we get in trouble. But they were able to get everybody that was impacted the help that they needed. They're transported to where they could be helped.
A hospital being hit and having to move patients seems like that's like a worst case scenario. Can you just kind of put into context? I mean, how bad is that when you're
Well,
trying?
I think what I would put into context is how well they responded. You know, we prepare for incidences like this. The emergency management team, they prepare for it, and everybody executed like they needed to do, and they got people where they needed to be and got them the help that they needed and the resources. And so, anybody that was injured was transported or took the air flights to where they needed to be. So I would thank them for their response.
We know a couple of families have been displaced and are sheltering either at the high school or at one of the churches. Have you been able to talk to them at all?
I have not talked to them yet. The shelter will continue to be at the high school because we were able to, with the disaster proclamation, that provides the director of the Department of Education, Director Snow, the ability to waive school days, and so she's waived the last 4 days of school. So school is officially over, and they'll be able to continue to use the high school as a shelter. Any other thing that we have to address from that perspective?
The school is also kind of our makeshift hospital, just for any triage, anybody that might get hurt during our search and rescue or cleanup efforts as well. So, and basically that's just going to be a transition from their initial care, and we got buses stationed there that will transport them to a critical care facility or another hospital.
This is Emergency Manager Cooper, who has been facilitating all night. So thank you for all that you've done helping lead these efforts.
Yes, thank you, Governor.
Governor, Sergeant.
One more quick, I know it's tough to pinpoint data points, but do you have any ballpark of how many first responders came out? You can say dozens, hundreds, how many people responded?
We had
You have people
law
coming from
enforcement,
everywhere.
fire, EMS if they weren't impacted last night, they were basically here
Clark County.
from the county line or the state line, Missouri state line to the Nebraska state line, and as far north around Fort Dodge, I think we had some units maybe coming from Grand Junction. I know Grand Junction was here. Yeah, all over. It was impressive.
people?
Oh yeah, easily.
Yeah.
They just come. Firefighters, local law enforcement, emergency managers, their team, and every one of the counties on site really offering or coordinating from their facility on how they can help with resources. So it's one big team that really gets stood up to help whoever is in need. It's really, honestly, quite impressive.
Could we say hundreds? Could we quantify it that way?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
When
Yeah.
it comes to the scale of how many buildings were either
impacted or damaged? Dozens, hundreds? What are we talking about?
I mean, I think it's still preliminary, right?
still
I mean,
preliminary.
we're
I think
still
dozens.
doing a lot of that, and you know, you can't. It's flat.
Yeah.
So, you know, we wouldn't want to give out a wrong number, and we're still assessing. And there's properties in the country that have been impacted as well. So we want to make sure that we have an accurate account that we
Accurate to
report
say
on.
dozens at this point.
Oh,
Have
yeah.
it, yes.
That's a small, yeah.
Yeah.
That would
Plus,
be
Yep. That
yeah, would be
under-
way underestimating.
Governor,
Last
Sergeant,
question,
I
Hannah.
know that search and rescue is still ongoing, but FEMA is reporting that there are 3 dead here.
Yeah,
in
I'm going to say it
Greenfield.
again, and we've said it multiple times. This is a search and rescue mission, and it will continue to be throughout the day. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Give me a few minutes. Everybody just give me a few minutes, gather a few things, and then I will touch base with you.